Welcome to the Studio African Utility Week. I'm Rose Bundock and I'm joined now by Jesper Daugaard, Senior Vice President of Global Marketing at Kamstrup. Welcome.
Thank you.
Kamstrup in Africa. What's the message that you're bringing to this show?
Well, first of all, we are here also to learn and hear about the challenges in Africa. We've been here for quite a while, and what Kamstrup, you can say the message we bring to Africa is that as a company focusing on metering solutions, we basically are able to provide three benefits for utilities. So the first value we create is focusing on trust between the utility and the consumer. So from the consumer side, am I able to actually understand and check that what I'm billed is what I've consumed? Is the meter 100% accurate and doable through the time? And from the utility point of view, it's to secure that it's not possible to cheat, that I actually are able to invoice all the things that I deliver. The other thing is waste. There's a lot of waste in the grid. When we're talking about water utilities, there's a lot of leakage. How do you detect that leakage either in the grid or on the consumer side and act on that immediately? And then the last point is to involve the consumer in being part of the solution. So if you have scarcity of energy or scarcity of water, you can actually involve the consumer in being responsible and protecting or taking care of what is available. So that are the three main things that Kamstrup is supporting with.
Okay. So you've brought over your electricity and water metering technology.
Yes.
Where do you see the most opportunity in Africa? Will smart water networks suddenly, become bigger than electricity networks?
Smart water networks is lagging behind of electricity networks, but they will come, and I think there will probably be a delay of 3 to 5 years before you see them on the same level. But water is becoming a bigger problem, because without water, there's a lot of things that just doesn't work, considering farming. Basically, people need water every day.
What about globally? I mean, we're seeing mandated water, restrictions in California. Perhaps for the first time.
Yeah.
Will that kind of drive the smart water network industry?
Yeah. You have California as one example. I just flew in from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Their water reservoir is extremely low. We are talking 20% at the end of the rain season. So we have the same problem in India, where the water supply is 1 hour per week. So there's a really big need for solutions that can, you can say, reduce these problems. And their smart water metering is one of the solutions that they need to grab for.
And you mentioned about the consumer and making the consumer involved.
Yes.
Is it easier to involve them in electricity than with water? Do you see utilities using different approaches?
That you can say we have to think about how the consumer thinks, because for a lot of consumers, it's about what do I have to pay, and very often the bill for water is so much smaller than the bill for electricity. So from that point of view, it's easier to get them involved about saving electricity. But when there's scarcity, when there's not enough, then it's another thing. And what really works well is to have in-home displays or to provide data available on the website that they're able to follow their consumption. So that's part of what helps. What really helps a lot is when you involve pricing. So use dynamic pricing. So basically, the less water you have, the more expensive it is. That triggers action from the consumers.
Is there potential in the way that sensors are being used to automate the home to reduce electricity consumption? Is there that potential with water? So you're not purely reliant on the consumer, you perhaps have a smart tap or something like that. Is that something that's kind of in development?
I mean, it's a very interesting question, because you see homes using solar panels or generators to solve the problem. And of course you could collect rainwater. But when you do that, you also start to have other problems with water quality. Because if you have these big tanks of water and you're not controlling the quality of the water going into the tank, you start to get problem with people getting sick, or as they have in Latin America, these big water tanks become actually their nest for mosquitoes or other bugs.
Okay.
So you can say the solution is not right there to actually provide a good solution for drinking water.
So at this stage, the consumer can't, get as involved as with power generation.
No, but what they can do is they can reduce their consumption of water. And if they're aware, you can say how much. I mean, it's for the one consumer, it's not. You can say. I'll put it the other way around. You can say you have as a consumer to think that you're part of a community. And if I reduce my consumption of water, there will be water enough for everybody.
Okay.
And if I'm not responsible, then everybody has a problem halfway through the season, that the water is not there.
And is that the kind of messaging that you see water utilities putting out there, that this is everyone's
well,
problem?
it's part of the messaging that they send out and where they would like the consumers involved. But I think a very big part of the solution is also to focus on the waste in the system. To be able to identify where do we have leakage in the system, that you don't have to reinvest the whole grid, that you can actually size your investment where you have the problem. And we see the same thing going on in the electricity grid. When you have a lot of renewable energy, you cannot control the production of energy, but you can actually route how the energy moves in your grid. And in that way you avoid you can say, reinvest in all your transformer station. You can just either use the balancing your network with the resources you have, or you can have fewer investments.
Speaking more broadly now, electricity and water meters, what trends are you seeing in functionality?
Well, in terms of functionality, basically there's in different regions there's different needs. So what we see in Africa is there's a lot of focus on prepayment. There's a lot of focus on fraud, to avoid fraud. So the way we go about it is we see this continuously will develop because we provide an infrastructure that enables new opportunities. So the way we have solved that is to make sure that we can actually operate the firmware of the meter. So I think when you and I are talking 2 years from now, we have solved the problems of today, and we're looking at the problems of tomorrow, which we might not be able to predict. So you have to be able to operate the functionality of the meter remotely, instead of, you can say, that you every 5 or 7 years have to replace meters, because nobody can afford that.
And the big question seems to be the communication technology.
Yes.
Do you opt for RF or cellular or PLC? What's Kamstrup's position on that?
Yeah, our strategy is to focus on radio technology. We have a very good working radio mesh technology. We can provide a wall-to-wall secure communication line to the meter. We have a 99.9% meter reading from the Nordic Greenland to the south of Chile, hosted in Denmark.
Right.
So we know how to do those things. But I think the future will have, you can say, multiple ways of communicating. So for that reason, we are partnering up with tele companies and other technology providers, having a very open philosophy, partnering with them. So I think we'll see multiple ways of communicating in the future.
And do you have any rollouts happening at the moment that you'd be happy to talk about?
We have a lot of rollouts going on at the moment. I think one of the more interesting rollouts going on right now is in the city of Copenhagen, with 1 million houses having smart meters.
Okay.
And in that rollout, it's basically, you can say, Dong, which is the utility, have decided that they're not buying a certain technology. They're buying a solution over 15 years. And they were searching for what is the most competitive setup for a smart metering technology there. So we do everything for them, from installing the meter, hosting the data, communicating to the homeowners, and secure that everything runs smoothly.
And do you find that energy companies are getting the maximum benefit from the metering technology?
To be honest with you, we are not there where we provide the maximum yet, but I do see a lot of utilities take this very seriously, and they're moving forward with good speed. But I think the potential to be unlocked is still very, very big.
I think there was a study in the US which suggested that most utilities still find out about outages from customer calls, even though those particular utilities have smart meters in their territories, which kind of suggests that they're not fully utilising the benefits, and I just wondered if that's a kind of industry-wide problem.
It's changing the world of the utility a lot, because as soon as they move into this form of technology, they're also moving into a space where things happen a lot faster. They're moving into a space where interaction with the consumer through, you can say, online communication, having a lot of data, it sets new challenges. So I think it's also about providing a technology and changing the competences and mindset in the utilities to harvest those utilities. And what we try to do is basically to be the bridge that share knowledge from one utility to other utilities. So we go out and interview utilities after they have implemented metering solutions, asking what are the challenges, what are the benefits, and we're trying to bring that knowledge to other utilities, have them visiting each other across countries, because very often they interact inside the country and they don't inspire each other across countries. Sometimes it's visiting each other, sometimes it's just setting up a virtual meeting.
Okay.
And we think that works really well, because when they talk together, they're also addressing the challenges that we are not, maybe you can say, facing as our scope.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of talk here, I'm just bringing back to Africa and African Utility Week, there's been a lot of talk about Africa as open for business.
Yes.
When will Africa be truly open for metering business? When do you sort of predict
well,
there'll be larger scale rollouts?
Larger scale rollouts. As I said previously, I still think that we are at a level where it's the business case that defines when do you go for smart metering. And it's also, you can say, how far-sighted are you? Are you thinking a 15 years perspective and considering your investment over 15 years? Because then smart metering provides a value creation that you cannot do with you can say, traditional metering technology. And then it's what's really make Africa, you can say, a big scale metering market. I think that has a lot to do with the politicians to prioritize infrastructure, to say we need to get the infrastructure right in order to make sure that Africa can utilize the potential that is in this continent. And I cannot predict when that will happen, but for sure Kamstrup will be there when that happens.
Okay. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for your comments.
Welcome. Thanks a lot.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching.